Right. Saudi Arabia. Let's go all the way back to 2017 slash 18, where I received a contract from PIF. Back then, PIF wasn't a heard of company. No one had heard of it. I had not heard of it. My manager had never heard of it. It was just a name, PIF. I asked everyone, who's PIF? Do you know PIF? Have you heard of PIF? It wasn't like a brand like Emaar or Nakheel or Dubai Holdings or Miras or any of those businesses that most Middle East construction workers had heard of. Um, you couldn't Google it. There was nothing on LinkedIn. It was unheard of entirely. And I got the call from PIF through an old manager because here in the Middle East, it's not what you know per se, it's who you know. And the market, the ecosystem in construction, I would like to say everyone to a certain degree knew everyone. So if you went on a project, you'd get called up by a manager or an ex-colleague saying, hey, they're looking for a project manager, they're looking for a construction director, and people would talk and then you'd get a job. And so in the same instance, I got a call from my old manager saying, Sham, come to Saudi. It's the place to be. And I was like, I'm 26 or 27. I don't want to go to Saudi. I'm happy. I'm partying in Dubai. I'm living my best life. Why would I want to get a visa in Saudi and go work there? They gave me an offer. I rejected it because I was like, Saudi, not for me. Second time, gave me another offer. Saudi, not me. The third offer, I was like, wow, this is a big number. And that's really when the initial stages of me moving to PIF actually started. It was to do with the commercial offer. And back then, 2018, the UAE was slowing down. I just finished King's College Hospital in Dubai Hills, where I'd been for around 2.5 years. And things were slowing down. And everyone knows in construction, when it slows down, you're on your way out. Because if there's no work, then you're probably going to get a call to say, unfortunately, we have to let you go. So it was on a whim and a big risk for me to just close shop in Dubai and head off to Saudi. And that's what I did. You know, I'm young, I'm a bachelor, I'm not married, I've got no dependents. My biggest outgoing is probably my phone bill. So I was like, I got nothing to lose. I'm young. It would be a great experience. And I trust my manager, who had already been there for a couple of months. And I left. And the great thing about this was PIF paid for my relocation. They gave me a lump sum. I won't disclose any figures, but it was a sizable lump sum to relocate. In the contract was schooling for, I think, 4 kids. Again, I'm bachelor, so that didn't really make a difference to me. A very, very healthy salary that I would never got in the UAE until maybe another 5 or 6 years. So it was a sizable amount. And bonus up to 4 to 6 times my salary, which was like, wow, because in consultancy, I'd never heard of a salary. You know, I started as a graduate, worked my way up to, project manager, and I never got a salary. I got 1,000 dirhams for becoming MRICS. But anyways, it was a no-brainer for me to leave commercially. It would set me up. I was thinking about leaving Dubai anyway because I just didn't find my feet. And I was like, this is probably the next step. And I followed my heart. And I went there and it was completely different. So there's probably another whole episode I'll make on moving, relocating, what it was like. But I'll be honest with you, I went in the dark completely. And in hindsight now, it's the best decision ever. Let's go to the macroeconomic side. Saudi Arabia, closed country. There was no tourist visas then. There was still men and women segregation. So for someone like me coming from the UK and also Dubai, which has become a lot more liberal over the last, several years, going to a country which is closed where you can't really integrate with male and females for me was a culture shock. And obviously living in Dubai, it's still quite conservative in some areas, but a lot more liberal in others. But Saudi was very conservative. And so for me, the cultural shock was I was taken back. But the Saudi culture allows you to really warm up and they're so hospitable. And I'm sure if you've been to Saudi, you've worked in Saudi, I'm sure everyone watching this has had a stint of some sort, whether as a consultant, traveling, had friends, got family, husbands, wives, whatever, work in Saudi. They will all tell you the same thing The Saudis are very, very hospitable, and that's what made the transition a lot more easier for me. Anyways, going back, in terms of the macro, they have nothing there. They had a blank canvas. Yes, there was some cinema projects done by some contractors, and they've got Kingdom Tower and a few other projects that were going on. King Abdullah's financial district kind of stopped. The metro had stopped. Litigation, disputes. Anyone being in the region, that Saudi was go, no go. One foot in, one foot out, and that had just always been the case for Saudi Arabia. And so to go there was a risk, and then to understand what they were building was a risk, because there was this utopia, this mega project, this giga project. I had never heard of something called a giga project. So then looking at this and thinking about what the hell have I signed up to was an eye-opener. So going back, men and female segregation, language. Well, I go Saudi now, everyone speaks English. Before then, it was Google Translate, getting a taxi, getting picked up, eating, where to eat, where to go. It was nothing. It was a blank canvas. So going to the macro level, no real infrastructure for expats per se, though I know people have been living in compounds. Select few number of compounds, which are to Dubai standard or an acceptable standard if you've lived in Dubai or in a European country. They've got no legislation. So at the beginning stages, it was like, well, what's the governance? In Dubai, you have Dubai municipality, you have DIWA, RTA. In Saudi, they've got this big vision, but there's no governance. There's no governance. Who is managing who? There was talks about a special economic zone. It's going to be ring fence. It's going to be this. It's going to be that. And then, there's other things that are happening at the same time. So it's a multifaceted, complex problem in the projects that you're running. They do have big ambitions. And, that was correlated to us in terms of what the aspiration is. The vision has always been very, very vivid in terms of what Saudi, are and who they want to become. That vision has always been vivid, but getting there, that is really where the complexity differences are. So on a macro level, you're going into a country from a construction perspective where they've got no idea about governance, about how the master plan is going to work. Then you've got the master plan level, where how will these master plans going to work and the adjacencies between all these master plans. You're talking about not complex projects. You're talking about super, super complex projects in remote parts of the world where there's no infrastructure. How do you get to these projects? There's no roads. Yes, you've got the Red Sea, but it's difficult to navigate the Red Sea. Yes, you've got planes going in, but you've got no airports, you've got military bases. So if you think from a logistics perspective, if you work in construction, a very complex region to tackle. So you have to get your governance right. You have to get your logistics right. You need to get your infrastructure right. You have to get the right people as well. The people part is the most important part, because you need to habitate, you need to work, you need to build a culture, a community with these people. And when I was there was people that I've worked with from consultancies, and you've got the management consultants who are advising you on strategy, and you've got all of these people coming in on a blank canvas, and then you've got all of these other things which are out of your control. And then you've got the other consultants that you're working with. You've got your master planners from a urban planning perspective. You've got the infrastructure guys, because there's no infrastructure in some of these places, and you have to make it all work. But you can't make it work if you don't have any governance. And so setting up these projects was complex, and the timelines that were given to us were really ambitious. As we all know, in the Middle East, everything was supposed to be done yesterday. So from that perspective, you're going into a very hostile, if that's the right word to use, or a very complex environment where a lot of smart people are coming into one room to tackle this problem. But there are so many different facets to this problem that it's almost difficult to build the foundation. It's like quicksand. You're trying to build a good foundation, because that's how every building is built, and that's how every project should be built as a project manager. But it almost disintegrates because there are so many seep holes that are not allowing you to build that foundations. And what's happened, in my personal opinion, is that they've never built a good foundation for the projects. In which case, whilst you can see those projects go up, hotels go in, blah, 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 the foundations haven't been set in the right way. And too many projects have been announced at simultaneously at the same time without a foundation being built. And I think this is really where things have started to go wrong. And people have been onboarded from all around the world, from the UK, the best of the UK, the best of the US, the best of Canada, the best of Europe, the best of Dubai. Everyone has gone for the big salary packets that even I went on, and everyone's come together. But in construction, it's all about building a core team based on merit, based on capabilities, based on aptitude, values, etc., driven by amazing leadership. Amazing leadership. And at the beginning stages, it was like that. But because of timeline and endless money, two factors coming down, things got aggressive very, very quickly. So from 100 people, expanded, these Giga projects expanded to 4,000 people overnight. And with that, without the culture and without the foundation, this is really where the issues have stemmed from. So whilst the visions and whilst the media have said, we're going out, we're building these colossal Giga projects, which in some respects are rational, which align with Vision 2030 to diversify the economy, and very rightly, needed to push the country in the right direction. There are other projects which are aspirational projects out of fiction, almost, in my opinion, that how can someone live in this community? How can someone, how can you have all what you need in this community, the scale of it, the size of it, and everything else? It doesn't make sense. However, we won't go into the politics around that. I just want to talk about the complexities of Saudi Arabia and where we are today. So over the last several years, phase one assets for a lot of these projects are now coming to completion or got completed 6 months ago. And they've tried to activate some of these hotels, mostly to get people in, to market, etc. I've stayed at some of these hotels. I've visited some of these hotels. For me, I think it's good standard for Saudi Arabia, but I think there's a lot of lessons learned. And we also have to compare it to other regions around the world where, listen, it's the first time they're delivering something. So kudos or merit where it's given. And from there, now we have to think about what Saudi needs to do to, upskill or to redevelop or to learn from what they've done and to make future phases or future projects better. And this is iterative. This is going to happen, right? So whilst we're all kind of saying, oh my God, don't like that, it's too expensive, whatever, we have to understand that this is their first set of projects, that they're going to learn from it, and then they can iterate and then basically move forward. But we have to also understand that they've spent so much money. I don't even know the figure, how much money has been spent, but I know it's a lot. Have they got what they wanted from when they first initially started this project? Is it project success? What is their KPIs for project success? Is it successful? To me, it's a question mark right now. But I still think they haven't finished what they have aspired to do. And I think they should finish and then evaluate whether we think it's project success or not. But in terms of where they've got to, new airport, some of the destination airports are there or thereabouts finished or will be finished in the next 6 months. Accessibility in roads, in terms of Saudi hospitality, amazing. Kudos, merit needs to be given when merit is due, and amazing Saudi hospitality, can't flaunt it, and they're still learning, right? Remember, for most people, English is not their first language. So I know us expats can go in and be like, oh, you don't speak English. Listen, for a lot of people, they've never left the country, and for literacy rates to be where they are right now, kudos. Construction technology, build, it's great. It's not amazing, but then again, it comes to learning. In terms of who's working on these projects, it's the best of the best. And for what they've done with the timelines, considering it was during COVID, I think they've done exceptionally well. Some of these other projects, I think, I'm not going to mention any names, but they need to be redesigned or redeveloped, or the business case needs to be ripped apart and to start from, not again, but I think there needs to be a reshuffle. So from that perspective, with where they've got with phase one assets after 7-8 years, and with the announcement of Saudi Arabia cutting back on budgets, we have to understand that after all of this money has been spent, after trillions and trillions of dollars have been spent, or billions of dollars, sorry, have been spent, there needs to be a return on investment. And I feel right now with oil prices, with foreign investment or the lack of, and in terms of activation of the hotels and the value that they've got thus far, I just don't see that they have got that to where they need it to be. And that's not to say that they're not going to get there, but I just think they've done a review of where they are today and what they've spent already and what the future return on investment is, because a country operates like a business. If money's not coming in, you don't spend money, and a country operates in the same way. So in which case, I think they have now gone and reviewed everything that they're doing in terms of all their capital projects and reshuffling. It's not going down. I'm not saying, it's all going down the pan. It's reshuffle or realignment of their current projects and reprioritizing what needs to be done. Reprioritizing. So we know that there are a lot of phase one assets which have been delivered by the Red Sea. Simdala at Neom, Amala has a few assets coming out. Alula has already been up and running for some time. We've got King Salman Park. We've got South Suda development. We've got some other capital projects, Daria Gay, Kadia. A few projects need to be complete. And then phase two, for most of these projects or subsequent phases, I think they will halt, stop, reevaluate, and then bring them into fruition. So what does that mean about jobs? So there's a couple of things. I think they are going to be more specific with who they hire now, which basically means not renewing contracts for those people who've been there for 2-3 years, right? Which those people will do two things, either go home to their home countries or go back to, the UAE, where most or a lot of the talent has come from, or other GCC countries, right? Number two, they will move, or people will decide actually to go to other PIF projects which need talent for the same salary. So they will go, if you're on 50,000, they'll go for 50,000. You can't get, from my understanding, if you go within PIF companies, you can't get another pay rise. It's just how they work. That's number two. And in terms of talent number three, they will go to other multinational consultancy firms within Saudi Arabia. So from developer to a WSP, Mace, ACOM, Atkins, so on and so forth. And then because they're multinational companies, they could potentially in the future move to their home countries through an internal transfer. And we see that a lot. So those are the three things. In very rare occasions, there's two other things that do happen. Either people start their own business because they've got the network, the capital, they've made their money to start their own supply chain or consultancy firm, and so on and so forth. Or number two, they join a local firm, like a local contractor or a local supplier, and bring in knowledge from their consultancy days or developer days in order to support these consultancy firms suppliers to get to where they want to be. And this is really where I see the talent going. Usually in Saudi Arabia, based on my opinion, Saudi used to be a region where maybe at the end of your career, you would go make a pay packet and then you'd retire. I think I'm generalizing here, but if you're watching this, then I think that's been the case for many people in the UAE, because they just want to make a quick buck and then off you go. We've now seen a new generation come in, maybe young people like myself, in their late 20s, early 30s, going there to make some money, not really knowing in terms from a technical standard or aptitude at that level. If you compared it to if you're in the UK at that level, or in the UAE at that level, or in the US at that level, but going for really high salaries, making some really good money. I'm talking about 5 years experience at 45,000 dirhams, but not understanding how to look at a P6 program. I've seen it. I'm a recruiter. I ask hard questions. I ask about FIDIC and the red book, the yellow book, the green book, and people are scratching their heads thinking, I don't really know that question, but I can wing it. And unfortunately, that's what Saudi has done. I think the maturity of candidates over the last couple of years has gone down. I think because the scale of the projects, not much has happened in periods of time. So people are kind of twiddling their fingers. And that has really led to the standard and the quality of technical skills going down, because nothing has really happened. And you're not exercising your skills. If you're not exercising your skills, you're not really learning, in my opinion. Or things are just basically being moved from here to here. here to here, here to here, and no progress is being made. It's just moving things around to act busy. And let's face it, it happens. When you're running these big projects, it happens, and that's what we've seen on the ground. And so I think from a younger perspective, people are asking for 40, 50,000 dirhams to now move back to the UAE or to move to the UAE if they've not had a stint in the UAE. And employers are like, no, because you're too expensive, undervalued, you don't have the technical apt, you can't really run a project yourself, you've never really completed a project yourself, and it's going to be a no. And so what happens to this talent? They can't go back to the UK or they can't go back to their home countries because of tax. So what do you do then? So there is a lost generation, both at the front end and at the top end. And generally with the talent coming into the UAE market, I feel that there are so many people coming into the UAE market without a job that it's put competitiveness at all-time high. You've got people who've been here for 10 years who are reaching that glass ceiling of 40, 50,000 dirhams. And I think that's the sweet spot for senior management now. And then you've got new people coming in who would accept 35,000. So what do you do then? What do you do then when you've got people who have worked for big companies, big consultancy firms who don't have Middle East experience, but looking to get similar salaries? And employers are saying, it's fine, take the salary, you're on a lower cost. It aligns with our cash flows for this year. So what happens to the guys at the top? And then the guys at the top have got two options. They either start their own business or they go to Saudi. In which case now, if Saudi is not recruiting or being selective, what happens to these people? They just stay in a rut. But with inflation going up in the UAE now, the question here now is, will people be able to afford to live in the UAE? Are house prices going to come down? No one really knows. Salik has gone up, or more gates have come in, grocery prices, school fees, and yada, yada, yada. There's so much going on. So what actually happens now? It's a question mark. We are seeing a lot of people spin off from design consultancies and multinational consultancy firms to start their own businesses. Some have been extremely successful, and some are at the infancy stages. That creates a lot more competitiveness in the tendering stage. And I think there's other areas I would love to discuss in future videos about tendering and how competitive it's gone. But overarching, I think things are going to become a lot more competitive in the labor market. I think tenders are going to get a lot more competitive. I think whilst there are still a lot of projects in the region, employers are going to be more selective with who they choose on tenders, who they hire in their firms. I think recruitment fees are going to go down. Sorry, recruiters. I know I'm a recruiter myself, but I think recruitment is going to go down from 15% down to maybe 12%. Even lower. The big guys are going to get hit already. I've already seen a number of CVs in my inbox from big recruitment agencies because they won't be able to service the number of clients if Saudi are going down. And we all know that Saudi is upholding the global marketplace. So it's my opinion that recruiters there'll be less recruiters working on jobs because internal recruiters doing most of the legwork. And if they are outsourced, then I think that they're going to go for a lower fee. Executive search, probably there or thereabouts, because that's a specialist service. But I think it's going to be a tough time for most people. I think also from a candidate sentiment perspective, that upskilling and reskilling is definitely going to be where it's at. Upskilling and reskilling. That's the buzzword for all future discussions that I will be talking about. Upskilling, meaning CPD, continuous professional development. I know it means nothing to a lot of you because unless you're from the UK, we're very hard on CPD, MRICS, MAPM, REBA, doing all of these courses, make sure you're on the ball. Practical work experience and academia go hand in hand. So in which case, continuous professional development is going to be something that everyone will need to start being involved with to stay competitive in this market. And then upskilling is learning new skills, BIM 360, understanding Grasshopper, Revit, mostly for the designers out there to keep up with the demand for digital delivery in design. And then for the other hard labor skills, MCIOB and, learning health and safety and, getting NEBOSH or health and safety under your belt as well is going to be something I think is going to have some merit, but not a lot of merit on your CV. I think rewriting CVs and cover letters and portfolios is a big, big, big thing now. It's how you present yourself. It's now more than ever, personal branding has come to the forefront of employability and competitiveness. I'm very hard on it. I won't represent anyone that I don't think that I would personally hire if I was a design or construction firm. So everyone will need to start updating their CVs, aligning it. We have got templates on our website. I'm not saying copy. I'm saying how your data is presented, how you present yourself. That's what we look for. We will be creating a new tech-driven CV solution, which we're partnering with a company with, and that will be coming out hopefully in the next couple of weeks to support many of you who don't know how to write a cover letter or CV. I know for a lot of you, it's common sense, but a lot of you simply don't understand. Your portfolio, if you're a designer, guys, hand sketches, hand sketches, hand sketches. Come on. This is what I love. When I look at a designer, if I'm working with the top of the top, I'm talking about the best designers in the world. And I'm not going to mention any names. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. But if you're going to vision something, show me your sketch work. I understand that you've got NDAs for some of your projects. I understand that you're not allowed to show some things. But if they're in the public domain, in my opinion, you should be able to showcase it and create some sketch work. Show me some artwork, show me some CGIs, show me some actual images, show me a story. Storytelling in design is where you capture my attention. And you won't be seen in front of any of our clients without storytelling, without showing me the best of you. And if it's not worth, if you wouldn't show your portfolio to your client, then do not show it to us. And this is just the standpoint that we have with most of our candidates. It's something that we have to hold ourselves accountable on as a headhunting firm, and that gets passed on to our candidates. We have to show high quality, and your portfolio demonstrates that. So I have gone through a lot today, and I know I've jumped around topics, but I just want to give you a flavor of what there is to discuss, and we will take it from there. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it and look forward to supporting you on your journey ahead in the Middle East region.